for SAP Global Trade Services. Today we are joined by presenters Bruce Romney, who is the Senior Director of Solutions Marketing for SAP Global Trade Services at SAP, and Shantanu, Product Specialist and Account Manager at Crypt. Now just a quick look at the agenda. Today we will go over how business has evolved, SAP Global Trade Services, what you would expect today in an ideal solution, why Crypt, an intro to Krypt Cloud, and how the customer would engage in this solution. And without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to SAP's Bruce Romney.
Great, thank you, Kayleen, and thank you all of you who are joining us, whether on this live session or during the recording. It's great to be with you all, and Sean is you as well, and for this fantastic announcement. So we thought we'd kick off the webinar just with a little bit of background, keeping up with business evolution. So many of you have been in the global trade arena for many years, and undoubtedly you've seen a rise in not only opportunities and increase in trading volumes, but also a rise in complexity and regulatory requirements. Today, with our customers, we've seen certainly a greater emphasis in many areas. I'll give a few examples, third-party risk management and screening being one of them. Also, we've seen a lot more with the cross-border sourcing and selling, the rise of free trade agreements and other preferential treatment, as well as being conscientious of embargoes and other restrictions. All these elements require greater control and understanding of complex bill of materials and really drive you to have better end-to-end visibility into your supply chain and your distribution channels. So whether you're computing value content calculations or managing vendor declarations and solicitations or performing license determination or classification, all these activities really have to be spot on to avoid penalties and delays. And as many of you have seen, the continued modernization of customs and regulatory practices, things like the electronic filings or the single window concepts, really requiring a more nimble and scalable approach. And over this same time period of growing complexity, SAP Global Trade Services, or SAP GTS as we call it, it really has evolved also to meet these requirements. After its initial functionality, we introduced probably just a little over 10 years ago. It was called Foreign Trade within our sales and distribution module of SAP. SAP GTS really has become the leading global trade platform for our customers to meet these increasingly demanding and complex trade requirements that I just talked about. So for those of you who are not familiar with SAP Global Trade Services, I'm sure many of you are, but I'll just do a quick overview if we'll go on to the next slide. It really is, as I mentioned, a comprehensive global trade management platform to manage a multitude of your global trade requirements. So not only do we have over 2,000 customers running some or multiple elements of global trade services in SAP environments, but we also have customers running it in non-SAP environments as well. And the platform, as you would imagine, has natural integration to other elements of the supply chain solutions within SAP, such as transportation and event management, giving you that end-to-end visibility. So for a quick overview of the solution, if you start on the wheel from kind of the 12 o'clock noon to the 2 o'clock approach, we start with restricted party screening. Just a couple of areas to highlight include we tie in with seamless integration into the logistics, financial, and HR processes, which is where most of your transactions and parties are documented and identified. And then we provide the ability to perform whether they're synchronous or asynchronous checks with the focus on our intelligent search algorithms. And that really is focused on reducing false positive and allowing you the proper workflow to release blocked documents or transactions, including being able to do so on mobile devices. Now, all of this is done with complete audit trail and archiving capabilities, which is important in the event of audits. If you continue on from an export perspective, the more obvious capabilities include product classification, license determination, your electronic communication, where SAP has over 25 certified custom interfaces. Also things like letter of credit management, and then also the creation of outbound trade documentation as well. From an importing side, it's similar to export. We also focus on the product classification and license determination. Certified customs interfaces for electronic communication, including import entry and things like importer security filing. A letter of credit management, and inbound trade document management as well. From a trade preference point of view, we provide vendor and customer declarations and the solicitations with the web-based version also, so that facilitates third parties being able to quickly respond. And then also the preference calculation with build up or build down scenarios gives you flexibility and the ability to configure nearly any free trade agreement. And you'll see some of that mentioned in some of the packages available through Krypt. And then finally, some highlights for special procedures. These range, and I won't go through all of them, but some examples include things like bonded warehousing, inward and outward processing relief, a new capabilities that we just recently released, which is the processing trade in China, things like excise deferral or ability to defer, eliminate excise duties with EMCS, and then also REACH compliance, so being able to track certain chemical contents and quantities contained in products, and then being able to make the right declarations there, and then also support for foreign trade zones, which is on the horizon in our next release. So hopefully that gives you a brief understanding of general capabilities within the SAP GTS solution as it has evolved over time in meeting these complex business requirements. And in the appendix, we've supplied some additional summary slides if you would like to review additional capabilities as well. I would also like to note, if you've been kind of following SAP as a company, it really is in a historic transition as the cloud company powered by SAP HANA. As such, we will continue to support for many years the traditional deployments as well as deployments on the HANA Enterprise Cloud. And we are highly focused on private and public cloud offerings from our partners, such as the one being introduced today by Krypt for GTS. So what's an ideal solution in this day and age? Of course, that varies a bit from organization to organization, but in general, we've learned that our customers really need to have solutions that have quick time to value. You really want to be able to engage the business and have that quick initial win to get continued buy-in and support. You also are needing flexible models for purchasing and budgeting decisions, whether that spend is looked at as capital or operating expenditures. You're also looking to solutions that adhere to security and top industry standards and user access, as well as protecting against breach of organizational or third-party data, whether that's an on-premise deployment or whether it's in a cloud deployment as well. And you're also looking for solutions that are highly adaptable and not rigid in their design, meaning that for any enhancements or modifications, it's not a complex process. And as well as your business processes and requirements evolve, you want these changes to be able to be nimble and adaptable and not complex or costly. And then finally, you're also looking for scalability and quick time to deploy. So whether that's predefined methodologies or pre-configurations or the ability to scale across a global organization. These are all elements that we've seen, and you probably have some ideas in mind too, but these are primary objectives of an ideal solution today. So finally, I wanted to end on why Krypt. We've partnered with Krypt for many years now and a very trusted partner in this space. Just a few things to highlight from a regulatory knowledge perspective. So Krypt in their projects and in their implementations and working with customers really have done so across a broad arena of industries. Those include life sciences, as you can see in some of the logos here on the bottom left, chemical, high-tech, industrial, manufacturing, and finance. Krypt also has invested in strategic partnerships over the year, whether that's for software, for hosting, content, and technology. Krypt is also involved in the forefront from SAP's perspective in the development, as we look to them to provide key contributions on customer requirements and also to help in the testing of new capabilities. And then as far as experience, you can see the dozens of large and global GTS projects that they have taken on, and really that's created thousands of hours of SAP consulting that they have done, which really gives them a lot of perspective and experience. And then finally, as recognized thought leaders, as you can see, that's an actual picture of the book on the SAP GTS implementations. And Krypt certainly has been invited to speak at many of our events as well as events within the industry. So with that introduction, I'd like to turn it over now to Sean, if you're there from Krypt, to introduce the Krypt Cloud.
Thanks a lot, Bruce. Thanks, Kayleen, for this wonderful introduction and setting the stage for the Krypt's cloud offering in SAP GTS. Without further ado, I'd like to get to what the cloud offering consists of. As you can see on the screen, there are multiple components, multiple layers involved in any cloud offering, and We will address each one of those in this webinar. The most fundamental layer, of course, for any cloud offering is the infrastructure. And what we have is we have partnered with an SAP-approved or certified hosting partner, which offers standard, best-of-the-breed hosting capabilities with some of the best industry knowledge. And of course, we also have partnered with multiple hosting companies to have our customers the advantage of choosing from global locations and access. The second aspect of it is the software, for which I think Bruce laid out pretty much in detail the capabilities and the advantages of SAP GTS. As Bruce highlighted, it is top-of-the-line solution for global trade automation and global trade management in the industry with some of the most complex scenarios that business users have addressed or seen in the past. What we are offering here as part of the solution is not only access to the best or the solution from SAP, but also the ability to stay up to date with the latest versions and newest functionalities, with timely upgrades to make sure that there's minimal impact and maximum throughput. The third layer is the content, and I'll talk about how all this ties in together. A lot of the times, customers have to deal with multiple vendors to go through each of these aspects, and as Bruce highlighted, in an ideal scenario, that should not be the case. The customer should get everything from a single source without having to worry about different vendors and different companies. Crypt has strategic partnerships with content providers, which provide content based on their needs, their business needs, and which will support their business from a global perspective. All of these are independent units for a GTS deployment, but the idea behind this offering is to club all these together and have the customer give the customer a single throat to choke, so to say, to have them a single source for all these components. The next layer is the implementation and professional services. As Crypt was kind enough to highlight, Crypt has extensive abilities and proven expertise in this domain. With over 40 deployments on GTS, we have never failed at a GTS deployment yet. We have sufficient expertise and experience in almost all the industry sectors like high-tech, chemicals, aerospace and defense, and have proven experience in these areas. So we not only have the skill set for the solution, but we also have industry-specific domain knowledge to make sure that the trade compliance tool satisfies all the needs for these specific to these industries. So the cloud offering will also have Crypt's experience and expertise in this area coming into the picture, and I'll talk a little bit more in detail on the solution offerings from Crypt. Next aspect of the cloud offering is the managed services, and I think this is something that Crypt has been doing for a number of customers for on-premise solutions, but we've extended this offering for the cloud-based solution as well. The idea behind adding these services was to help the customer, to help train the customer to make sure that they receive the right business consulting to support their business or end users, to make sure that they ramp up with sufficient support from their partner. As we've seen a lot of times, implementation of any new tool or any new solution introduces a number of gaps in the business process or the end users, and these can be knowledge graphs, these can be process gaps, and Krypt is offering these services to make sure that the end user ramps up quick enough with the tool and is able to successfully execute their duties. And the final piece is the end-to-end support. Krypt has been involved in a number of support engagements with our customers where we're providing support for GTS as well as any allied SAP components. We've extended this support for the cloud offering as well, and we will be providing end-to-end systems and solution support for your trade needs. So this includes infrastructure. This basically includes all the components involved in the cloud offering. So you will receive the option of basis, infrastructure, database, content, of course the solution support from a GTS perspective, and managed services. One of the interesting points in this is that with the experience that Krypt brings to the table, each customer benefits from the experience of every other customer, and I think that's an interesting aspect to consider for your GTS deployment. Moving on to the next slide, I wanted to go a little bit more in detail for what the Krypt Cloud or what the cloud offering actually means, and there are certain concerns when it comes to security or access, and I wanted to address some of those concerns. As you can see, this is a very high-level architectural or pictorial depiction of how a customer would access the solution. We are offering multiple options in this case. Of course, you will have the client-to-site connectivity through VPN, where independent individual users will be able to directly access the solution over the web using industry-standard VPN capabilities. But we are also offering site-to-site VPN capabilities. So users who are in the internal customer network do not have to go through more steps to connect to the cloud offering or the cloud solution. The site-to-site VPN will offer them the capability to directly access the solution through their internal network, and there are no without compromising on security. The site-to-site VPN, of course, takes care of all data encryption, decryption, and of course IP securities. Moving on to the next slide. As I had mentioned before, each customer has different requirements and different users located in different geographical regions. We have made sure that the users for the customer will be able to access this solution globally and without much lag or without much delay and optimum performance. How we've achieved that is by partnering with hosting providers who have strategic geographical locations that allow this, and making sure that everything is tightly integrated without introducing any kind of risk or lag. This is very important from perspective of making sure that the data is available when you want it to be available. As you can see from the screen, in addition to the geographical locations, we have the most best of the breed, you can call it again, offerings for the infrastructure with a 10 gigabit redundant and encrypted MPLS, Tier 4 fully redundant data centers, highly secure and energy efficient data centers. Moving on to the next slide. I wanted to talk a little bit about the solution offerings. Now, we've taken care of the infrastructure. We talked a little bit about the infrastructure and support pieces. But how would the GTS on the cloud solution be deployed for a customer? GTS is, as Bruce has highlighted, in his slides. It's a very complex solution. It expands over a number of, touches a number of areas in global trade. I wanted to talk a little bit about Krypt's cloud offering and how that ties in with SAP's strategy. So we've basically divided the functionality into bundles, as you can see from on your screen. These bundles are kind of an a la carte menu with a flavor of build your own pizza kind of offering, where you're able to choose each section along with the high-level sections as well. So, for example, and of course, these are also tied in with the SAP's licensing strategy. All this ties in well with what SAP has to offer when it comes to the Global Trade Services functionality. Just to give you an example, a customer will be able to choose just the compliance piece or SPL piece for these sections, or the customer can choose just the import functionality, or just the export functionality, or simply the preference and compliance functionality. And within each of these bundles, of course, you have specific line items that can be, again, itemized or can be independent selections. You want to do self-filing, letter of credit, financial screening, or have trade preferences, but you want the customer needs specific trade agreements, just NAFTA or any of the Asian or South American trade agreements. That can be done as well. That can be implemented on as-need basis. And of course, this is scalable. So the best part about this offering is that once what this offers the customer is the ability to ramp up and get some of the quick wins that Bruce talked about in place and deployed quickly to make sure that you get continued buy-in from your business users. I'll talk a little bit more about the timelines as well, but the idea behind this was to identify those quick wins from the business user's perspective and deploy those, and then build on top of that as needed. And that's how we have bundled the solutions. That's how we have. Sorry.
Yeah, just a quick comment. This is Bruce. So I appreciate how you've laid this out, because it does show that although complexity lies within the requirements, right, the solution is comprehensive, and so it does allow you to focus in on the areas, whether it's export, import, or just SPL screening. You know, sometimes our customers or prospective customers think that it's such a large solution footprint that, you know, they have to swallow the whole thing, and that's not the case. And I like how you illustrate that it is, depending on whether it's one or multiple countries, or whether it's on just one or two different scenarios. As a customer, you do have the options of, and so that definitely has an impact on cost and also on the timing, right? Depending on what you're looking to roll out. But we have, as well as Crypt, made it available to focus in on the particular areas of the scope of the project.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot, Bruce. And yeah, this slide basically was just specifically for that. GTS has such a large offering in the trade compliance automation space, and customers get that flexibility with the cloud solution to identify quick wins and kind of deploy those and then build on top of that. That was the idea behind segregating these areas. This is an important, and I feel one of the biggest advantages of having a cloud solution, which is the timeline. On a traditional on-premise solution, you would have to go through certain process to have the GTS functionality in place before the end users can start using it. But what the cloud solution offers is, as I said before, identifying certain quick wins and deploying those. And I've highlighted some of the key areas that customers might be looking into and given some kind of reference timeline. Please bear in mind this is a reference timeline with of course, the bare minimum functionality, and we've not taken into consideration some of the complexities that go along with it. But it is possible to go live with an SPL and embargo functionality from week 1. And I think that's something that drives home to most customers, and that's what an ideal cloud solution should have, is the ability to quickly deploy one of the most key areas of trade compliance automation, and then build up on that, and that ensures continued buy-in from your business users. As you can see from the screen here, the SPL and embargo, the Krypt Cloud can have this functionality within a week, and that's something phenomenal as far as what I've seen from previous experiences. It's one of the areas that most customers want to start immediately. It's an immediate need for most customers, and that's something that we can offer through this cloud. As you can see, the overall timeline also reduces because of the cloud offering, because of a lot of factors that come into picture, a lot of advantages that a cloud offering has as opposed to an on-premise solution, without any compromise on the actual functionality. We know GTS is the top of the line, best of the breed trade compliance solution available out there. And what this cloud offering does is now not only you get best of the breed, but it's now something that you can get quicker. And I will talk a little bit more about the pricing options and other things. But those apart from those benefits, what this timeline benefit provides is that we can plan, the customers can plan their deployment schedules without having to compromise on one, the functionality, as well as the time to deploy for their GTS or trade compliance automation solution. This is a little bit on the pricing model. We tried to do a comparison on the traditional versus the cloud model. Now, in a traditional scenario, customers were looking at two sections of two costs, and one was a one-time cost, which was the licensing cost, the implementation cost, and the infrastructure cost. And also there was an ongoing component to the GTS deployment where customers had to build internal teams to support the solution. Of course, the maintenance cost that comes with the license, the support cost to support the solution, not just from the functionality perspective, but the allied aspects of an SAP implementation, basic security, and stuff like that. And I think one of the most critical aspects has been the content, and we've seen a lot of customers struggling with content updates and not having the right things in place to make sure that they remain compliant throughout. And at no point should they be non-compliant or should miss out on certain updates because they were not applied due to either holidays or the way their content update strategies were in place were not adequate, or simply lack of resources. And that's one of the things that we try to address here, is giving the customer through our managed services and through our support services. We want to ensure that there is no lapse in any kind of updates, not just to the software, but also to the content, making sure you remain compliant, and as well as you keep getting the benefits of the latest versions of the technology. What we've done with the cloud-based pricing is we've split it only into simpler pricing models. There is an onboarding fee, which is going to be a factor of your monthly subscription cost, but the ongoing cost is the monthly. So all these services that I just highlighted before will be put in as a monthly subscription cost with a. We feel it's a 3 to 5 year contract is necessary to give the customer a benefit of the pricing model that's put in picture, and give the customer a benefit of CapEx versus OpEx, and that's what this slide talks a little bit about. As a traditional model, there's a larger component of the capital expenditure, and a similar component on the ongoing operational expenditure. But in a cloud-based model, we try to reduce the capital expenditure that the customer has to go for. So the business users have that flexibility in deciding on what kind of solution they want by reducing the CapEx and converting some of the CapEx towards OpEx. And this is something that is unique to Krypt. We have put together a pricing model that allows the customer over a period of 3 to 5 years retain the same TCO, if not lower, but convert some of the pricing into CapEx versus OpEx, and giving the flexibility therein. Again, from the tenure perspective, we were thinking about a 3, 5, and 7-year contracts. The ideal would be 5 years to get the most benefit out of this pricing structure, but we can do 3 years and 7 years as well, and we can always give you some more information if that's what you're looking for. So how does this all tie into what Bruce talked about earlier on in an ideal solution, what customers are looking for? So as I mentioned, the time to deploy is fairly less compared to a traditional on-premise solution, and of course the flexibility of choosing bundles and the subsections under these bundles to identify quick wins for each customer. This gives you the fast ROI that an ideal solution should have. We have pre-configured GTS content that reduces the deployment time considerably. Krypt is also has a certified RDS solution. We'll be leveraging those RDS solutions in deploying these functionalities to make sure that your time to deploy is as lean as possible, and you get the fastest ROI on your fastest ROI. As I mentioned before in our pricing structure, one of the biggest challenges that customers have been facing is the capital expenditures versus OpEx, and this cloud offering gives that flexibility to the customer to decide how they structure their pricing model, and Krypt is flexible in regards to that as well, to a certain extent, and that's how we have achieved that aspect of an ideal solution. Security, I showed you, and I can share some more. There's a slide, an additional slide with this slide deck that will be shared with all the participants, which talks about the security, IP security, and data encryption, and the overall structure of the data centers that we have identified for this solution, making it highly secure with VPN accesses, as I said, client-to-site as well as site-to-site VPNs that ensure data security, because I understand that's one of the major concerns that trade organizations for every customer, for most customers have, is the security of their data, and we've made sure that is achieved with our offering. Bruce also mentioned that a solution needs to be adaptable, and I think I've covered that area as well, again with on-demand enhancements with respect to functionality. So solution bundles are structured in a way where you could enhance or make quick enhancements to your existing deployed solution as your business needs change, as your business network changes, and these can be put into place fairly quickly without impacting your current functionality in place. Quick wins. With a time to deploy of 1 week, I believe the SPL and embargo, it's the biggest quick win for me from this. With leveraging Krypt's RDS, we can achieve that fairly quickly, and not just for that piece, but even going forward, if there's complex functionality with our pre-built content, we can actually reduce the time to deploy for most of those, all of the functionality, and that's one of the biggest aspects of this solution offering. The managed services piece, as I elaborated a little bit on each of these sections, the content updates, the regulation, and the software or even the infrastructure upgrade or update support That is something that is included as an offering in this solution. I believe it's tremendous value to the solution offering, because then the customers don't need to worry about a lot of those things. And of course, these won't be forced down the customer. It'll be left to the customer to choose what kind of upgrades and updates that they are interested in. If they are interested in a certain new functionality that comes out with a service pack, we can deploy that for you quickly. Usually, what happens is on an on-premise solution, the customers have kind of a year-end update policy where each year they identify certain patches or upgrades or updates, and then they have to plan around it. But with this cloud offering, that's something that you don't need to wait for, because it's something that is going to be taken care of by internal Crypt resources that we have put in place for support, wherein you can quickly access the added or the new functionality that comes out with an upgrade or an update or service pack without having to worry about how it impacts your other systems in place. And that's, I think, another important advantage that you get from any solution on the cloud, not just this one, but this one has that offering as well. Scalable. Bruce mentioned that an ideal solution needs to be scalable, and I think we have achieved that aspect of our cloud offering pretty well. As you can see from the solution bundles, but that's just about functionality. But what about infrastructure? Businesses go through so many changes, acquisitions, mergers, which suddenly impact their volumes, their transaction volumes, their user base, and everything. How do you scale up to that quickly? And I think nothing does it better than a cloud offering because of all the resources that are available. And we can talk a little bit about private or public cloud, but basically, this solution has been designed in a way where it is highly scalable. You can add not just hardware resources, but also functionality fairly quickly by choosing certain functionalities in the bundles, or simply communicating the change in volumes or the change in the user base, and we can accommodate that fairly quickly. So how does the customer come into the picture in all of this? And I believe there has to be customer involvement in this to a large extent, but it is not as much as a traditional on-premise deployment. What we're looking for is as part of the deployment, we will have to assign an owner of the solution from the customer who takes responsibility for this and works with the Crypt team, solution, and the infrastructure teams in identifying the needs and requirements for that solution. This owner can be IT or business or both. The business team members also will need to be involved in identifying the scope of the deployment to make sure that their immediate needs or their quick wins are identified, and make sure that we are choosing the right solution roadmap for the customer. And I think one of the most important areas is the testing piece, where we will need the customer to engage in certain testing cycles to make sure that their solution does provide the necessary level of functionality, as well as comfort, as well as training, as well as users' acceptance levels to make sure that the solution is the right fit for their teams. After the implementation, there will be ongoing involvement and engagement from the customer as well to do continuous improvements. What we are offering with this piece, it's part of the managed services, where we will be engaging with the customer to provide continuous improvements based on SAP's best practices. And not just that, we will share with the customers our experiences that we get from other customers on how they can improve their trade organizations, or by adding either functionality or processes. So there's a lot of knowledge sharing that will happen after the implementation. It's not simply start using and that's the end of the story and you're stuck with what you have. There will be a continuous improvement plan in place where we will work with you in ensuring that you are completely satisfied with the solution in place, and have some kind of a roadmap in place to to make sure that the solution adapts and changes and scales to the business needs of your trade organization. I want to mention what will be the next steps when a customer chooses a cloud versus on-premise or has made that decision. The next steps would be to set up a call with one of our account managers and solution engineers. Excuse me, and we will go over the solution in a little bit more detail with you, address any questions or concerns you may have. And and the next step to that would be a discovery workshop where we will start asking the right questions. We have a questionnaire that we've built that we can share with you that gets us the basic level of information needed, such as users, volume, transaction volume, and stuff like that. That gives us a high-level picture of what we're looking at. But the discovery workshop will go a little bit more in detail, in depth, and try and design and help us design the solution for you.
Thank you so much, Sean and Bruce. This finalizes the end of our presentation. We will take a few minutes to address any questions that you have. As mentioned at the beginning of the webinar, you can type the questions in the questions box, and any questions that we don't get to, we can follow up after the webinar. So we'll just take a few minutes and see what questions have come.
So there has a question that has come in which asks, is the solution a multi-tenant architected solution or a single-tenant solution? It's a very good question, and the typical cloud solution is usually a multi-tenant solution, but I believe this is the way Global Trade GTS is. This is something that we will decide after further. This will be decided a bit after the discovery workshop on what level of functionality and what level of complexity that is involved in the solution. We can cater to both multi-tenant as well as single-tenant, but traditionally, based on our experience and based on what we've seen, a single-tenant solution is more suited as long as it caters to the pricing needs of the customer, and we can manage that and achieve that. That would be the recommended solution, so that takes into picture the continuous improvement plan that I earlier talked about, and that takes and that actually supports that. In a multi-tenant solution, the continuous improvement, let's say we have multiple customers on, then the continuous improvement will not be specific to that customer. The roadmap will not be specific to that customer, and a lot of things change. So depending on what the customer's needs are, if they're happy with the delivered functionality and don't have any specific roadmaps, then it can be a multi-tenant solution. But ideally, what we recommend would be a single-tenant solution, just to make sure that that continuous improvement plan can be put into place, and the customer benefits the most from that. So so there's a question, can we get a copy of the presentation that was recorded? And the answer is yes. All participants that are registered for this webinar will receive a recording for this the recording of the webinar. So the next question is, what is the subscription model by feature or per user? Excellent question, Sundar. that again will be decided on the discovery. The subscription model is based on multiple aspects. As I said, volume, transaction volume, complexity, user base, geographical locations, and number of things. To answer your question, simple answers, yes, it is going to be user-based, but it is going to be impacted or affected by all these other aspects as well. So that's the best answer I can give right now. Another question was, will there be separate instances for each client? I think I've addressed that on a multi-tenant versus single-tenant question. So the answer for that is the same as that. There is one more question. Is the hosting center SAS 70 Type 2 certified? And the answer is yes. Do you have a slide? One of the questions is, do you have a slide showing what other systems, agencies, government systems, etc., your cloud currently connects to, other than the customers? Excellent question. This is something that is, again, part of the discovery phase that will come up. Whatever systems that your on-premise solution would connect to in regards to NFE or anything like that, we can connect that as long as the other party supports the connection types and other things. So I believe this is something that would have to be addressed in depth at a later stage. We can also, Rajan.
Usually we have a partnership with these different, for example, connecting to Customs Authority, we have the preferred partner, Seaburger. We work through them. So.
Thanks, Rajan. One of the questions is there any performance issue if you implement in cloud? And the answer is no. And yes, depending on what you mean by performance issue. So as I mentioned before, we have different geographical locations to ensure there is no performance issue as far as accessing the system is concerned. But there are, this is mostly dependent on the sizing that goes in place. If the sizing and the questions to the initial answers are adequately answered, we don't see any performance issues coming up. And we also have audit capabilities where we will continuously audit your performances, the performances of each system, and we will address that as it comes along. One of the questions is an interesting question by Paul is, through the managed service content area, can I make manual adds to the restricted party screening about what I'm getting through party lists from MK denial, etc.? And the answer is yes. You will be able to make manual adds. You will be able to make in your own restricted parties lists and stuff like that. So none of that actually changes compared to an on-premise or a cloud solution. You will get the full-blown benefit of the GTS solution as it stands today, even on the on-premise solution. I think Rajan addressed this question in cloud, how we will connect to the customs authorities. I think this question has been answered by Rajan before. The next question is, does my internal ERP system need to be SAP for me to take advantage of these solutions? And okay, I think this is a very interesting question, and we're probably going to have another webinar coming up soon on this specific product offering from Crypt. It's a certified SAP product, and we will be sharing that webinar as well. To give you an answer, the answer is no. It does not have to be an SAP system. We have the capabilities of integrating GTS with non-SAP ERPs as well. Of course, the maximum benefit is with an SAP ERP system, but you can still use GTS with a non-SAP ERP system using Krypt Connect, using our proprietary solution. And Rajan, you want to add something to that?
Yeah, I just want to add that from a trade solution, you get the exact whatever benefit GTS provides, even if it's a non-SAP. That doesn't change. Just that, you can connect to any non-ERP. So if you are using any, and GTS is the best of the breed, so we definitely can connect with non-SAP, and we have done that with many of our customers.
Thanks, Rajan. I think someone else is again asking if the hosting centers are SAP 70 Type 2 certified. The answer is yes, Prentice. The next question is, how is the DR managed? Good question again. The disaster recovery is there in place. It will be offered to customers. It's something that you can choose to have or not to have depending on your business needs, IT needs or IT strategies. But yes, disaster recovery options will be offered, and we will share more information on that when we get to that point. Another question from Paul is, if my company already has a strategic software relationship with SAP, how does that impact my ability to use GTS through the Krypt Cloud? There is no impact, Paul. This is something that is blessed by SAP. It is backed by SAP. The SAP's MCAS group also has approved this solution offering. So there is no impact to your strategic relationship, software relationship with SAP. What we can do is, if this is specific to a licensing issue, we can take this offline. I can answer that question to you on how it would impact your, maybe if you have an already existing license, how does that impact you, as opposed to a separate licensing need. But I can definitely address that question because I think this is a very specific question to your situation. Next question is, all the security packs and support packs will be applied regularly. Uday, this is something that again ties to the previous question about multi-tenant and single-tenant, depending on that. But the answer to your question is yes, they will be applied regularly. The patching program or the patching plan will be shared with the customer and approved by the customer before we go ahead and patch. But yes, to answer your question, they will be applied regularly. Next question is, what is the recommendation if we need to get the data in bulk from the cloud for some reporting needs? This will impact the volume, the transaction volume that I had talked about, and this will impact some of the sizing and pricing areas. But we can definitely make that available. Rajan, you want to add something?
Yeah. So I know we have this is a reporting need. We also are coming up with our SaaS model called visibility of product. If you're interested, we can share with you those details as well.
Yeah, thanks, Rajan. Yeah, so we have another product which is Crypt Visibility, which is targeted towards the reporting capabilities of GTS, and we're coming up with a SaaS offering for that as well. So that ties in, that answers, that makes sure that you won't need to extract any data out of the cloud. You can actually get your reporting needs right then and there from GTS.
And that wraps up the end of our webinar. It looks like we've answered all the questions here. If you do have more questions, please feel free to reach out to us. You can either reach us at info@cryptinc.com, or Shantanu's contact information is provided as well. Thank you, everyone, for attending, and enjoy the rest of your day.